Let me give everyone a second to join here. All right, I think we're about there. Thanks for joining us, everyone, this afternoon, and welcome to this webinar about Maine Tech Share. We're really excited to have you and to talk about this. This is part of the Maine Connectivity Authority's Resource Exchange webinar series, and we're going to have a short presentation for you all and then try to leave as much time as possible for discussion and questions and answers from our speakers. Feel free to put any questions in the chat as they come to you, and we can start with those as we get to the Q&A section. I'm going to pass to Maggie to start some introductions of speakers, and also for all of the attendees here, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Maggie, take it away.
Great. Thanks, Jenna. Welcome, everyone. I am Maggie Drummond-Ball. I'm the Senior Director of Digital Equity and Partnerships for the Maine Connectivity Authority, position that I have held for the last 3 years, 3 very fast years, I would say. And I'm happy to introduce our panelists today, Chris Martin from Give IT, Get IT, Justin Fournier from Bangor Savings Bank, and Ellen Culberson from Southern Maine Community College. And you are going to hear from all of these lovely people shortly. We wanted to just do a quick context setting as we start the webinar today to give you a sense of sort of how the Maine Tech Share campaign fits into the overall digital equity and opportunity strategy for the state. And Jenna, are you going to share slides, or do you think I should share slides?
If you have them open, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, I will do it. See, these are the things that we talked about almost everything else before we opened up the webinar, except who was going to share the slides. Share, got it. Oh, you know what happens if I share the slides? There we go. Okay. We did it. Yay, technology and digital skills. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Just a quick context setting, because we want to make as much time as possible to hear from our panelists today. The Maine Connectivity Authority, if you don't know us, is the state's broadband office with critical mission to make sure that everyone in Maine, people, businesses, institutions are fully connected to the high-speed internet and are able to really access all the benefits and opportunities of being connected. We use some of these terms, we intermix all these terms and just sort of throw them out there. So we want to take a second just to level set for folks what we're talking about. When we talk about the digital divide, we're really talking about the gap between folks who have everything they need to access digital opportunities and those who don't. And when we talk about digital inclusion, we're really talking about the work that we're doing, either providing that affordable connection or the device that someone needs or the tech support. And digital equity is really the state where the goal that we're working for, which is to make sure that everybody has access to not only their connection, but also the critical skills they need in order to take full advantage of that connection. So we may use these terms today, but we wanted to just give you a little bit of background there. In the state of Maine, we have a digital equity plan. This was a plan that was developed with some of the partners here on the screen today and hundreds of other partners around the state. Our digital equity plan was the first in the nation to be approved by the federal government in early 2024, and we have been working to implement that plan since that time. We have a critical goal, sort of high-level goal, to reach at least 50,000 people with comprehensive digital inclusion support, and that means making sure folks have devices they need that meet their needs, the digital skills and confidence to access the internet, internet safety education, and of course, technical support. We also have a number of other ambitious goals within the state's digital equity plan. That includes a couple of highlights here, making sure that all the devices that are distributed to folks who need them come with technical support, generating 25,000 devices for refurbishment and redistribution to folks who need them, and of course raising at least 15 million in private and philanthropic capital in order to sustain and really fund these efforts. And if you haven't been watching the news, that last goal has become even more critically important as the state's federal funding, as well as funding for dozens of our partners, was terminated in May. So stay tuned for more on that, but we are certainly working with all of our partners to raise funds for the Digital Opportunity Fund to make sure we can meet these critical goals for the state of Maine. If you look at the structure of the Digital Equity Plan, we really focus on 8 populations that tend to be those that face a barrier to being connected. So this includes low-income households, folks who are older adults, folks living in rural communities, individuals with a disability or language barrier. You can see them all here on the screen. The important thing to know, I think, in Maine is that 89% of our population identifies as one or more of these populations. So we know that there are a lot of people in Maine that may need some additional support to get connected and really take advantage of that connection. The key elements of our digital equity plan and strategy include making sure that folks have affordable access, that we have the digital skills to do the things we want to do online, that we have affordable devices and technical support if something goes wrong with your device, and that we really think about making sure that our public and government resources online are accessible and easy for people to use. And then, of course, we talk a lot about this in Maine, really making sure that folks can stay safe when they're online and using that internet connection. This is the sort of picture of the overall strategy as we are implementing the digital equity plan here in Maine. As you'll see, some of our signature programs include our investments with the regional and Wabanaki broadband partners. These are 18 partners covering every region and tribal community in the state, really working to drive public-private partnerships and to provide digital inclusion support that is tailored to those specific regions and communities. We also have 10 what we call connectivity hubs. These are community anchor institutions that are working around the state to provide digital inclusion support, as well as education and workforce and telehealth programming. So there's a whole bunch of things to explore on our website on that program part of our sunflower here. And there's also a ton of ways that folks can be engaged in this work. You'll see we have an annual digital equity workshop where we bring partners together. There's a week where we're really focusing on what digital inclusion means in Maine, as well as across the country, and that's our Digital Inclusion Week coming up in October. There's a statewide coalition, the Digital Equity Alliance, and over here on the sort of the take action part of our square or our sunflower, you'll notice the Digital Opportunity Fund, of course, an opportunity for folks to help us fund these efforts. And that has really been through our state and federal funding in the Digital Opportunity Fund, a little over 20 million for the last few years, is how we've been powering all of the pieces of this puzzle. Next month, you'll find out more about Tech Help for Me, which is a new online platform that folks can access to find existing resources and programs. And you'll notice the one we're going to talk about today, that pedal the Maine Tech Share campaign. So all of that is accessible on our website, and maybe Jenna, you could drop a link into the chat just so folks can explore that and see some of those specifics. But why? Why are we launching the Maine Tech Share campaign and inviting our partners here to come and talk about it with us? We learned a few things about the barriers that are presented by lack of access to devices when we were creating the digital equity plan in 2023 and 2024. First, we found a lot of folks in Maine have devices that don't meet their individual needs. If you've ever tried to apply for a job using your smartphone, for example, it can be pretty challenging. We found a lot of folks have the wrong device for the things they're trying to do. We also found a lot of households, particularly low income households, didn't have enough devices for all the folks who need to use them in the household. Cost was a significant barrier as families and individuals are working to find the right device or access the right device for their needs. Sometimes that cost was really the barrier that prevented them from having the device. And then, of course, there's always the challenge of technical support. So we talked to lots of folks in our focus groups who said my only source of tech support when something goes wrong is a family member. It was often a grandchild or child, sometimes a friend. So we really know we have to think about ways to provide technical support. So devices, significant challenge developed or that we found out more detail about during the development of the Digital Equity Plan. And that's why there's a number of goals in the plan related to making sure that people have the devices they need. So that brings us to why we are launching the Maine Tech Share campaign. We have an amazing asset in the state of Maine, Give IT, Get IT. You're going to hear from Chris today more about this organization. But this is our partner in the campaign and is a licensed technology recycler who also has real specialization and really started with specialization in refurbishing devices and making sure that those devices get into the hands of people who need them and that they have some support along the way. So the Maine Tech Share campaign is a statewide effort campaign in partnership between the Maine Connectivity Authority and Give IT, Get IT to really encourage more businesses and institutions around the state to contribute their devices and partner with Give IT, Get IT to see them refurbished and recycled and redistributed to folks who need them. Our goal over the next few years is to generate 25,000 high quality devices and to see them distributed through our community partners all around the state to folks who need them. So that is the Maine Tech Share campaign, and that's me talking very quickly so that we can get to the most important part of today, which is talking with our panelists. So I'm going to just move these slides off my screen so I can see our panelists again. And thank you for your patience as I kind of set the context for today. And given that the Maine Tech Share campaign is a partnership with Give IT, Get IT, we're going to start with you, Chris. And actually, you know what, I'm going to go back to just have you guys introduce yourselves really quickly before we dive right into the questions. So why don't we start with you, Chris, anyway. Tell us who you are, about your role, just where you're based and how long you've been in that position. We'll do these round robin introductions and then we'll launch into questions.
My part's pretty easy. So I'm one of 5 main co-founders of the Information Technology Exchange, which is now named Give IT, Get IT. We started this back in 2002 in my Stockton Springs garage with local kids to see if it could help people. And then it blossomed from there to Belfast and now in Waterville, Maine, where we employ 25 team members to go through about 1 million pounds of technology a year. There's a lot to it. We have a whole bunch of advocates around the state and community partners and really cool businesses who completely get us, who have us go through all of their surplus tech and recover what we can to help folks.
Thank you for being with us. And Ellen, why don't we have you go next?
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name's Ellen Culberson, and I'm the Director of Social Services at Southern Maine Community College. I've been in this role for 2.5 years and partnering with Chris's organization, Give IT, Get IT, for a little bit over 1 year.
Great. Thank you for being with us. And Justin.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Justin Fournier. I'm from one of those really cool businesses Chris was just talking about. So I'm from Bangor Savings Bank. I'm the director of infrastructure and support in our IT group here. And I've been with the bank for about 13 years now. And we've been working with Give IT for a little bit over 20, believe it or not.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. All right, we're going to go back to you, Chris. And can you just tell us to start with today a little bit about the work of Give IT, Get IT, and how the Maine Tech Share campaign will support your organization and your mission?
Sure. So before MCA's help, and especially this campaign, we've always hunter-gathered relationships with stakeholder Maine businesses like LL Bean, IDEX Laboratories, Bangor Savings Bank, which can be quite a lot of work to identify the right person to talk to basically ask them if they would like to see their technology go to something to help their own community. It's not your normal technology CIO executive level conversation. And the beauty of this effort is hopefully it'll help us reach deeper into the business community and agencies within the state to harvest this material that we need to produce all these devices for folks. There's an immense amount to it, and it's not just the business contributors of all the equipment, state and public agencies. It's having really cool partners like SMCC. Was going to be my alma mater back in the 80s. I went to USM instead. I'm sorry, Ellen. But who help us find and identify qualified need for devices, people who are on some kind of career track, educational pathway, where technology or the lack of it has become an obstacle to their objectives. And what we do through the devices, and more importantly, I think the support, where we can coach people to their goals and help them overcome the little challenges that we all encounter using tech every day, just like poor Maggie did coming in. It happens. And having that person to call for help without breaking out a credit card because you don't have one is sometimes paramount to your success.
Absolutely. And just give us like the high level numbers. So how many staff do you have, and you're based in Waterville, and what's that high level number of like how much technology is coming in the door right now annually?
It's pretty wild, and it sounds like a lot. And obviously with the goals that we've set as a state are significantly higher. But last year we processed 1.1 million pounds of corporate tech. We diverted almost 18% of that, 179,000 pounds were found reusable devices to help people. That was 59,000 total components or devices. 25 people are going through all the work of going through the pile at our Waterville facility and trucking it in from Kittery to Fort Kent, even as far as Boston and, believe it or not, Alaska. Fortunate for other Mainers that move around who know us. Just an immense pile of stuff coming in for us to sift through it, separate the wheat from the chaff, properly handle the waste. We're also a zero landfill recycler, so we're very proud of our dumpster. I know that sounds weird, but we don't have anything in it but packaging and things that aren't recyclable. And we're also data security certified. I guess we'd probably have well over 200 advocates in the community partner space who help us connect people to need, from literacy volunteers to DHHS, folk rehab, the university and community college system, right down to small community nonprofits. And interestingly, we help lots of libraries and those community nonprofits because they're serving the people that we struggle to find that need our help. So if we can augment their mission to help their constituents, our goals are still being met.
That's great. And that's actually a great, that's a great segue to move it over to Ellen so we can hear a little bit about what it's like to be a community partner with Give IT, Get IT. Ellen, can you just describe the kind of the device needs that you see with your student population, the types of students that you're serving, and really what your experience has been working with Chris and his team?
I would be happy to. So I'm thinking back to a few minutes ago when you had that slide up about who's impacted by the digital divide in Maine. Those are the students that come to community college. And so oftentimes our students will come to the classroom, into the college setting with huge excitement and motivation to engage with a cell phone only to complete their coursework. And I know this is not a surprise to people in this space, but that is just not good enough to be as on top of the work and the expectations and the rigor of higher education classrooms. And so this partnership with Give IT, Get IT has been profoundly impactful and really smooth in process. And it's put technology in the hands of our students who are the most vulnerable, the highest need, that they can keep, and really been a key part of their higher education program completion, entry into the workforce, completion of housing applications, like you name it. And I think one of the best things about partnering with Chris's organization is the service and the speed they provide to people in need. So that student I was talking about before that comes to the classroom with a cell phone, that's often on the first day of the class, and that's when we're getting to know them. If they are referred to work with Chris's team, they will, if eligible, have a computer in their hands, usually by the end of a week, which in I don't know, in my work, that's just unheard of. And that's really like what is needed to be successful. So I have so many good things to say about this organization and have really seen the positive impacts so far at the college.
Thank you, Ellen. And I think that is so common to see the use of a smartphone for a whole variety of things that are just not very doable with that type of device. Justin, let's turn to you. Can you tell us a little bit about the partnership between Bangor Savings Bank and Give IT, Get IT, and what those benefits are to your business?
Yeah, you bet. So, like I mentioned a little earlier, we've been partnering with Give IT, Get IT for over 20 years at this point. And when we think about partnering with anybody else, it's not even a consideration because of how convenient and how easy it is to work with Chris and his team. And in particular, it's so nice knowing that the devices that we're recycling through them go to Maine communities and nonprofits and individuals and get repurposed and reused. I went to a community college myself, and having a program like this at that time would have been incredible. So I love seeing what's going on here, and it really is such a great cause. Another thing that is really important to me is just the security of our devices, and Chris and his team take care of that. They go through, they'll make sure all of our data is destroyed on the devices. They have all the certifications required, and they destroy the data in all of the ways that we need them to. And that's something that we used to do ourselves before we partnered with them. And that took a lot of time, and you have to be really careful with that because it's important, and we're a bank. And one of the other things that is really impressive to me is how professional and how clean and just the environment when we're working with them. When we need a pickup, they show up very promptly. They help us out with getting our bins loaded. They give us new bins, and it's a great experience all the way around. I really can't say enough good things about Chris and his team.
That's great. I've definitely driven by on the highway the Give IT, Get IT truck, which is always fun to see doing pickups. And do you have a sense, Justin, of how many devices, or just like what's the volume of devices coming from Bangor Savings Bank to Give IT, Get IT?
Yeah, absolutely. It's roughly 400 laptops a year, and it's roughly about 100 to 150 desktops a year. So for us, that's a lot because that's a lot of volume for the bank. But for Chris and his team and what he was just saying, they're able to handle that, and it works really great. It's very affordable too, and that's another thing that I'd just like to mention is, it's a Maine company, and everything, because of all the low overhead, they're really able to do incredible things.
Great. Thank you. Ellen, we're going to just bump back to you for a second. We heard a little bit about some of the barriers that your students are seeing related to devices. But I know you mentioned some of the benefits and just impacts that you're seeing from the partnership. So can you talk about a little bit about the impacts you've seen for your students and opportunities created through having the device that meets their needs?
Absolutely. I mean, being a year into this partnership, I'm really starting to see some of like the fruits of the garden start to grow here. And I think we can expand this out of the classroom tremendously because for our students who are really indicative of like the population of Maine right now, having a device that is reliable, that works at your home when you need it, is the difference between a completed class, a met deadline. It's the difference between securing an apartment in the community and missing it, responding to a landlord and missing it, securing your benefits for your entire family for a year, by uploading like eligibility criteria or not. And the impact of that is profound and so much further reaching than just what they're doing at school. And it has been so cool to see people that I worked with last fall walk across the stage at graduation with their families and for them to be able to say, like, not only did I finish my program, I know what I'm doing next. Oh, and by the way, we have safe and stable housing. And I know confidently from messages I got from them, they were working on stuff at 10 o'clock at night. You cannot do that on a public device at a library or something similar. And this just allows people to do things in their own time. So it's hugely impactful.
That's great. And we were just in our prep before the webinar, you had just heard from a student who just got a device, but how many students have you served since you started this partnership?
Over 100.
100. That's amazing.
Mhm. And I will tell you, like, the appetite is there. Like, we're figuring out ways to continue working together because it is going so well for our students.
That's amazing. Chris, let's jump back to you. And I know, Give IT, Get IT started as really a digital opportunity, digital access organization, and then went on to really pursue the licensed recycler identification. But you, in addition to providing devices to folks who need them, you also provide other supports. Can you just talk a little bit about what the relationship is like with someone getting a device from your organization and the other supports that they receive?
Absolutely. And I just reiterate what I texted. I told you we have the best partners. We just do. We're so fortunate. So aside of being grassroots in this, we learned how to build this thing. There was no book or dummies book for how to build a nonprofit computer digital literacy and access program back in 2000. There just wasn't. So over time, it was our partners that informed what the needs were on the ground, whether from a Give IT donor of technology or a Get IT partner who's connecting technology to people. Justin did a great job outlining the different things we do to satisfy our donors' needs of technology, those folks that let us source the materials. Interestingly, the scope of need on the digital equity side for the people who need technology is so broad, it's hard to containerize it. She just described it from the perspective of a student, but what about seniors, homeschooled youth, people with disabilities, or veterans who are isolated? There's just so much. So the one thing we realized, we couldn't be everything to everybody, but we would be really good at three different things. One, preventing or keeping the cost, deferring the cost of all of these services from the person who can least afford it, the people that we help, because oftentimes cost is one of the big obstacles to being digitally included. Number two, don't sacrifice product quality, meaning these laptops and desktops that we build for people are business class Willys Jeeps, if you will, of tech. They're not last year's Black Monday or Friday or whatever that is event for $299 laptops that are designed to blow up in 6 months. That does not help someone get through a 2-year degree program. And three, don't make anyone break out a credit card or feel like they can't call you. As a matter of fact, encourage it when they're at that point of needing a technical intervention, we call it, because those are the best learning opportunities. And that's how you get people over fear and make them capable and competent users by not just fixing something for them, but walking them through why it happened and how to keep it from happening again. And now they're learning fundamentally on their own. So those are our three big values. That's what's made us so successful in the Get IT space.
That's great. And I think it's nice for people to see and hear the combination of options here, right? Like we definitely heard during the development of the digital equity plan that many of the folks who might face a barrier to being connected want to work with, you know, a trusted organization or someone they already have a relationship with. They might not know Give IT, Get IT right away. They might be nervous to make that call. If they're a student at SMCC, they already know Ellen and they're able to go through a community partner, get introduced to Give IT, Get IT. But you obviously have folks who call you directly as well. And so I think there's a real range of ways that the community partners are important in your work. Justin, let's go back to you for a second. So you all, Bangor Savings Bank's been working with Chris and his team for 20 years. Can you talk a little bit about what keeps you in the partnership? We've heard some of these benefits, but just the reasons that other businesses might want to engage in this partnership and in the Maine Tech Share campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me and for Give IT, Get IT, one of the main things that they do is they reinvest in the community. That's also really important to our bank. And that's something that keeps us coming back. It's also really, really nice having local contacts that I know that I can put a face to the name and I can pick up the phone if I have a question or if I need something. And they're really there to work with me. I personally love Maine. I've lived here my whole life. I love the community. So anything that I can do to help reinvest is great. And the bank is the same. We've been around a long time. We're also committed to Maine, and our missions just align so much that I couldn't possibly think of going anywhere else, really.
And you're just riffing off that, Chris, your organization is fairly unique, right? And when we've had conversations with the other state broadband offices, not every state has a device refurbisher partner like Give IT, Get IT. Can you talk about just like the landscape out there, other organizations, and how unique your organization is specifically?
Yeah, so I belong to an association of other nonprofit technology refurbishers around North America. We have 82 peers, believe it or not, in Canada and the United States. And not one of them is in New England. I don't know what it is about the air, or maybe it's our tribalism. It's probably our tribalism. If you're from Massachusetts, if you can't say coffee right, you're not in. If you're not from Vermont and don't have that A bit going on, or from the county, they're not in. If you're not from Maine and don't know anything about lobster, you're not in. I'm not sure what it is. I just know my instincts for this whole thing was to set it up for rural Northeast. I'm also a Maine kid. I did leave for a while. I came back. Technology is what allowed me to come back to my state. And I wanted other people to be able to do the same, because a lot of my classmates moved all over the world. And of 250 graduates in my class, I can only think of about 40 or 50 that are still in the state of Maine. Whether that's for opportunity, lifestyle, field of work, I don't know. But for most folks, it was greener pastures, just like me in the 80s going to the Boston market. And when I came back 7 years later, I'm like, I'm not going back. Sorry, Boston. Love your ball teams, but I'm a Mainer. This is where I want to be. So as far as being unique is concerned, there are commercial electronics recycling services, but that same truck that you and many other people send us photos of, which is, I love seeing it all over the state. On one side of it, it says, where does your IT go? Because the one thing we answer that the commercial market won't, because it's proprietary, is anybody that gives us tech knows exactly where all the bits and pieces go. And from an environmental perspective, from a data security perspective, and just from a community investment perspective, If someone's not telling you where the stuff is going, it's because they don't want you to. And we're very transparent. That's made us sticky, highly accessible, okay with the critical conversations that can be uncomfortable, because after that, your relationship's stronger. And this is really just about bringing the village together to help each other. We just have this weird cyclical thing where we cross all these lines between community partners and the business community. So the closest nearest one I can think of, I believe, is in New York City, believe it or not, that does anything like this work. And I don't know if they do it quite like we do. And I don't know if that makes us weird Mainers, or it was the special sauce that fit the need here.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're glad you're in Maine. That we definitely want the resource, the resource here. Ellen, I want to just hop back to you for a minute, just thinking about your students and thinking about the partnership with Give IT, Get IT, and you mentioned eligibility. What made students eligible for receiving a device through this partnership?
Great question. So this was based on income. And Chris can tell you, I'm sure, what the income limits of eligibility are depending on the family size. What we have found, though, is that with ease, our students have fit that. And so they were able to really benefit from this program.
Great. One other thing, we're going to jump into, in about 5 minutes, we're going to jump into Q&A and make sure folks have a chance to ask you all questions. But I know there was a kind of a unique one-off event, Chris and Justin, that you all did together with Bangor Savings Bank. Do you want to talk about that event, the recycling event that you did, so people get a sense of what are some of the other ways, other shapes this work might take?
Sure. Yeah, so we did have a one-off event a couple months ago where we extended the recycling to our employees, and Chris was great working with us, getting a little bit of extra capacity and giving us some really great recommendations on things that they could reuse and repurpose as well. And maybe some things that, like, don't bring in a car battery, you know, stuff like that. They really advised us. They gave us some extra bins to help with the event. And then after the event, I think the next day they picked everything up. It might have even been later that day. It was really incredible. And that was wildly successful. And for us, that was great because we got to spread the mission and educate our employees about where our tech goes and where their tech is going. So it just kind of completed the circle for us. And I'll say too that when we were talking with everybody about that, one of the things that they asked is, geez, you know, how can we get more involved with this? And how can, you know, I have a nephew who's going to college and he needs a computer. Like, can he benefit from this? And the answer is, yeah, you should go take a look. One of the things that we've touched on a couple times, but I really want to reiterate, is the amazing job Chris and his team do supporting these devices. And that, I think, is also pretty uncommon. You know, if you go to Best Buy on Black Friday and you pick up the cheapest laptop off the shelf and it stops working 6 months later, you're having a problem using it, might be out of luck. But with Chris and his team, if you're having any questions using it or anything, they have that support after the person gets the device. And that is a really unique part of the program too. And I think that education pillar that Chris was hitting on is one of the most important and impactful things we can do for folks. A lot of people getting these devices, it's maybe their first time having a device like this. So there's a big education component that Chris and his team are able to help out with.
Yeah, that's great. And that I just keep having questions I want to ask you all. So I'm going to ask one more. I'm going to ask Chris and Ellen just weigh in on that. Thinking about this kind of comprehensive approach, right? And we talked a little bit about it in the context of the plan. A lot of times people think we have digital equity or folks are digitally included if they have access to the internet at home. But we've talked about how it's a lot of pieces working together. You have your device, you have tech support, you have the skills to do those things that you need to do on a daily basis. And it's all those pieces working together that really help people be digitally included. So how are you all seeing that integrated approach operating, Ellen, particularly with your students, and Chris with folks who are coming to Give IT, Get IT? and how should, you know, agencies like MCA and other funders, you know, listening to this, how should they think about where to leverage our resources and funding to support this comprehensive approach? I'm going to maybe go to Ellen and then
Yeah.
Chris can too.
Happy to jump in. Well, what I can say it this is a little tongue in cheek, but when our students have challenges, I hear about it, right? Because I'm in social work, I'm in relationship with our students. Something that I don't hear challenges from them about rarely, if ever, is problems with their devices. Like the opposite. It's like once they get this in their hands, they are sailing. And so the product that comes from places like Bangor Savings Bank, after the beautiful service that Chris and his team do, like the computers are functioning to where students need them to be, people need them to be to work effectively. In the rare case that issues have come up, I have only heard good things about the educational experience that they have when in conversation with Give IT, Get IT folks. And just like from the community partner standpoint, you are as strong as your systems. And Chris's team has a really efficient, well-working system to get technology in the hands of people who need it quickly. And they were extremely patient educators to get my system where it needed to be so that this could flow with ease. And we are there now. And that is in huge part thanks to their generosity of time and willingness to meet with as many players as needed to be talked with to get on board, and people have.
Amazing.
I
Thanks,
would add,
Ellen.
too, that they
And
were an early adopter too. So what was really cool was when you find somebody who, I'm going to use the heck out of this, but gets it. And you know, explain to them what you're trying to do to help their constituents succeed. They take all the weight off of us. This is the exchange of the value to both of us. I don't have to worry about someone's income eligibility. I don't have to dig into financials on people to see if they're eligible, that I'm giving this gift to the right person. I know they're on a mission track, a very positive employment, 21st century economy workforce or community goal. Then it's just a matter of backing it up. But interestingly, my grandfather's old adage of, I see, said the blind man, so he took out his hammer and saw. It's just a tool. You can throw equipment at people all day long. If you don't have this concierge approach, this wraparound safe approach to be able to help someone get it started, overcome their fear of it, protect them from the unfortunate things that are out there on the web that can get you in trouble. And just to know that the phone line's open if they need some help and it's not going to cost them anything, we'll get them through it, has led to kind of a fearless charge from a lot of people, I think, that have been held back for a while. So the neat thing is none of this works without the partners on either side of this thing. And I would love to say we've created this insanely unique thing. Well, it is to New England. But interestingly, it was all educated and informed by the people that we work with. I'll take credit for being smart enough to listen. But the reality is we couldn't have done this on our own. We had to have feedback from both ends, on the Give IT and the Get IT side. That's what's made this so powerful. So not just the device, it's the support and the ability to get help when you need it, to use the thing properly, to maximize its benefit. That's equal to, if not more important than the actual device, I think.
yeah, thank you for that. And I don't want to miss a chance for you all to just point out where additional resources are needed as we think about how to enable more of this work, in addition to the partnerships that will contribute devices through the Maine Tech Share campaign. I know Ellen, SMCC was part of a grant opportunity to help support the cost of these devices. Do you want to just say how you funded this effort so that folks have an idea of what the need is for partner organizations to engage?
Absolutely. So we were so fortunate in the last year to have access to grant funded assistance for 100 laptops for our students, which eliminated the entire cost of the machine for the student. And this partnership could not have come at a better time because we're still operating under the guise of free college. Therefore, many of our students are zero income and are not eligible to work yet in some cases. And so the ability to have access to technology they could keep but otherwise could not pay for was profound. To the extent that financially subsidizing tech through this partnership is possible for other partners out there, the impact is huge because the Give IT, Get IT reduces the cost to folks who are eligible at such a rate that, like, even if it's not the entirety of a machine, a partial subsidy makes it possible for people. And so it's been really impactful in the last year.
Great. I'm going to invite, we have about 12 minutes left. And, one of the things that we often do on these sessions is not leave enough time for our audience to engage and get to ask their questions. So I'm going to invite folks to put questions in the chat. And Jenna, let me know if you want to do it any different way. And while we wait for that to happen, thank you, Jane. There are a lot of myths, right, Chris, about, whether recycled and refurbished devices are top notch. Do you want to just talk about how the quality of the technology, in case that's a concern anyone was coming in with today?
What's really funny, some of the earliest objections to what we were doing was, that's a used machine. Why would I want that? Well, you're coming to me for an alternative, because back in the day, these things cost $2,000. And nobody understood the value of it. Whereas now everybody gets the value of it, and they've become less expensive, but certainly not cheap. Business class equipment is different than what you buy at the store. It's a totally different animal. I am talking to you and run the entire organization, my part in it, on what was a student laptop that we would have distributed 4 years ago. And the thing is a tank. It will not die. It's not pretty, but it's, in my mind, a Ferrari, because if you look at the ROI on what would be a $300 student laptop, I don't know, I'm at about a cost out of pocket of about $33 a year for my device. Cheaper than 1 month's internet. So do I have tech support? Yeah, but it's no better than my clients, probably not as much, because they don't want to talk to me. I have to fix my own stuff. At the end of the day, these aren't consumer devices, they're business class enterprise devices. They're very solid. And I would also say that in a clean commercial environment that's been supported, like Bangor Savings Bank, this thing was in use for 3 years, very gently, very lightly. You're just expected, as part of your role as an employee, to care for the asset that you've been given. And by the time we get them, they look amazing. We still clean them up. We put some new parts in it and such, for data security reasons and quality. The wearable parts, kind of like new tires on a car. But the reality is, we only build and provide machines that we know will give 4 years minimum of serviceable use. And we did that based on collegiate goals. Yeah. Because while you're in that world and you're working on a shoestring in your education, you don't need to fall off in your junior year, having to come up with another $700-800 for a consumer device. And so I can't say enough about the quality of business class equipment.
Yeah, that's great. And Justin, you probably have some specific timeline, like how often are employee devices turning over at Bangor Savings Bank?
Yeah, absolutely. So life cycling our devices really is the cornerstone of our IT strategy here. And like Chris was saying, it's a 3-year-old device, and business class devices will last much longer than 3 years. We are extremely aggressive with our life cycle, and part of the reason we're proud of doing that is because of programs like Chris's right here, where we know there's a lot of life left in this device, and it's going to go to a great home, and it will be used for a while after it's done with us. Chris, you mentioned briefly the care that our employees take with our devices, and it really is incredible to me. Just earlier today, actually, someone came up to me, one of our help desk techs, and he said, "Hey, we have this device that we just got back, and I think we might have to actually send this one along, and it had a big dent in it." I'm like, "Oh my word, what happened?" And he said, "Well, they got in a car accident." And I'm like, "Okay," but before that, it had been like a year since I had heard anybody bring a broken device to me. It doesn't happen very much because people really do take good care of their equipment. They're light, they're portable. So we are able to, when we recycle them, they're great devices.
My future device owners are starting to
See that.
protest. Although they're not using their device to apply for a job or anything. It's mostly entertainment at this point.
Not yet.
Okay. I am not seeing any questions in the chat, so just welcome folks putting any thoughts or questions in there. Chris, I know you have a variety of community partners, and sometimes community partners, I'm thinking particularly of Somerset County, maybe, or even in Kennebec. The organizations, the devices are going to the organizations, like for public use or to support the nonprofit organization versus the individual. Do you have a couple of examples of those types of partnerships you could share?
Yeah. Some of these tech hubs, for example, around the state, certainly for the last 17 years, public libraries, because I identified them as that last ditch resource for high-speed internet and a working computer for folks who didn't have it all over Maine. We have like 214 public libraries in the state of Maine, believe it or not. So we build lockdown public access stations for libraries. The patron walks away from it, it forgets everything they did, which protects people's identity and also keeps the computer intact. So the poor librarian who now has to play IT person doesn't have to get into the messy part of restoring an operating system or something. It just undoes everything. It goes back to its zero state. We provide access tools for nonprofit staff and community organizations, especially like Literacy Volunteers of America. That's one of my favorites, frankly. So they get past print literacy. And mind you, these relationships can be 3 years long, one-on-one. To take an adult and a mentor will volunteer their time for 2 to 3 years to teach that person print literacy in their 50s, let's say. So some of our LVA folks will actually tell us about these success stories and will award the mentor and the student a computer. Because guess what? Digital literacy is now your next task. You're past the print literacy thing. Now let's get you to get past the book and join the 21st century economy so you can get resources. There's so many things. Different counties we work with, economic development centers especially. I think we have 7 in the state of Maine. Just having all these community partners out there, whether they sponsor the cost of this service to their recipients, or whether we're doing it cooperatively through a grant to cover some of the outlay to do it so we can sustain this work. Most of it is already paid for through our own earned revenues and grants internally anyway. That's what Ellen was getting to. Every user that gets a device from us, we're already subsidizing about $600 in the service cost. But there's that last little bit of $125 to $350 that's needed to get a device into someone's hand. The support, onboarding, navigation work is all already taken care of. So it's interesting. I mean, out of a $2 million budget, only about $260,000 a year comes from grants. The rest of it's coming out of us. And because we have that investment, we really care where the stuff goes. And because we have really great partners, we don't have to worry about where it's going. It all just works, and it's hard to explain without a visual. I'm a wicked visual person. But it is corny. It's that takes a village thing. You have really good networks and partnerships working together to find need, address the need, and folks to help supply the system to fulfill that need, whether monetary or by technology, is paramount. That's the only reason why we've been so successful, and maybe that is why it's a good thing we set this up in Maine, because we're like that here. We're very tribal. So I can't otherwise explain it. I don't know how. The MBAs have tried. It just works really well. And I think it's the commitment of everyone that's involved.
Awesome. Well, we have just under 3 minutes left. I've just put the tech share link into the chat for anyone who's going there. And I saw some earlier comments that sounded like maybe we have some potential tech share partners who will be getting in touch, Chris. So that's great. We encourage folks to check out that landing page so you can see how to get engaged, and it will direct you right to Chris and his team to have some initial conversations. And again, our goal over the next few years is to generate 25,000 high quality devices that folks can use. Any parting thoughts that our wonderful panelists would like to share before we sign off? Chris?
We were talking about data, and I hate boring people with data because it's so icky and analytical, but we had our banner year in 24 at 2,100 devices out of that 1.1 million pounds that we distributed to people in need. That's 2,100 households who are now digitally included, about 7,000 people. Very exciting. The goals for the state are about 6,000 over 4, right? 6,500 per year. So we're about a third of the way. If this was one of those 70 TV fundraisers with a bunch of people sitting in the background waiting for phones to ring, we really do need folks to think about where does their IT go, how they can work with us to get it back out in the hands of people that need it. 1.1 million pounds is a lot of material, but it's like digging out the side of a mountain to find the gold. A lot of it's just rock that goes back into the hole, or in this case, not in a hole, but through a zero landfill recycler. The whole thing sustains well. We can infeed as much. We have a lot more capacity, and we obviously have a lot more demand to fill. So whether it's sponsors of people who need to get IT, or companies and agencies that have IT and don't know where it goes, we have a really good place for it. And I would just leave you with that.
Yeah, and that's a great tip. If you work for a business or an institution and you don't know where your technology goes, start asking and maybe encouraging and sharing information from today. Ellen and Justin, any parting thoughts?
I would really just say, if you're curious about the program, for us, really, there's not a lot of downsides, right? So check it out, see what you can do to help reinforce your communities that you're living in. And it's really a good thing. If you have any questions or want to talk to me directly about it too, feel free to reach out. I'll throw my email address in the chat, so you can always do that.
Yes, I would encourage all three of you, go ahead and put your emails in the chat so folks can find you. Ellen, final thought.
Similar to what Justin said, I'm very reachable. And a year ago, I was so ignorant to the world of digital equity, and now I have such a huge passion for it after seeing the merits of it, and that's largely thanks to these partnerships. And so thank you all to anything and everything you do to continue this really important work.
And thank you, MCA, for getting us out from behind the blue curtain. I've been hiding behind it for too long. I really do appreciate making people more aware of this. When they realize it, they're shocked. And I'm not a big cheerleader. I just like the work. So MCA has been a huge help in making sure that I step out in front of it, our group steps out in front of it, and raise awareness to this. It is incredibly important. And I just wanted to thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and big thank you to all three of you for joining us for today's webinar. We're super excited about the Maine Tech Share campaign and all of the opportunities that can be created for folks around the state who might need a device. And we hope that you will look at the information and reach out to us and get engaged. And I think that's going to do it for us today at 3:02. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.